Burnout, burnout, burnout everywhere. Yes, guys, that's just how it is. This doesn't usually happen, but I mean, I guess I just have to push through it. And what better way to do that than to talk about Logan Paul? When was the last time we talked about Logan Paul on my channel? Oh, 12 days ago when we talked about how he is apparently suing CoffeeZilla. And I mean, what's funny with that is that now we're going to be talking about Logan Paul being sued by literally everyone. This also includes KSI because this has to do with Prime Hydration, but it seems like every day I hop onto the internet, right? I hop on Twitter and I see a new headline about how apparently Logan Paul and KSI's Prime Hydration is being hit with another $13 million lawsuit. Like, bro, what? I was originally going to make this a second channel video because I was covering some of the lawsuits over there, but this is honestly just huge. And the fact that it keeps happening. Like, why does everything that Logan Paul runs just get sued into the ground? Like, I don't get it. Or actually, maybe I do. Because Logan likes to cut corners so that he can make more profit. And on top of them doing things like that, I mean, when it comes down to Prime, they decide to make a regular like Prime Hydration drink, and then they also decide to make a Prime Energy drink. Now, if you know anything about the brand and the people who watch Logan and KSI, the main majority is kids. So when you have things like that, literally anyone who is unfamiliar with the drink, like say if it's a parent, they have a child who wants some Prime, right? Prime Energy just happens to be the first thing that they see on the shelf. They give it to their child, literally not thinking anything of it, and then something bad happens because if you don't know, energy drinks are not for children. I mean, just in general, when it comes down to a lot of these energy drinks, they're not even good for adults to be drinking because besides them waking you up and making you feel alert, they do more than just that because they have huge impacts on your cardiovascular system and also your neurological system. Now, they can also do other bad things, like how apparently the CDC is saying that, you know, drinking these can cause dehydration, and I'll be honest here, I believe it. Now, I'm not trying to like stop anybody from drinking energy drinks, but there definitely are way better options out there, but this is one of the main first controversies that Prime had, in which because of it last year, a US senator called Prime a serious health concern, based off of the fact that they really didn't distinguish Prime Hydration from Prime Energy, and people were mistaking them essentially. And this is especially bad when your main consumer and target of the product is children. So yeah, that's essentially where this all started, and ever since last year there have been multiple lawsuits that have been filed against Prime Hydration for many various things, those of which include breaking contracts, whether or not Prime contains forever chemicals, PFAS, intellectual property rights violations. It's not like some of these things have happened only one time. No, that is not the case. It keeps happening, and I feel like every week that I hop onto the internet, I just see like this insane new lawsuit that is going after Logan Paul and KSI's Prime Hydration. Now, in one of the earlier lawsuits that happened back in August 2023, Prime's Great Flavor, according to a lawsuit, allegedly had a dangerous amount of forever chemicals or PFAS in a single Great Flavor Prime, and this lawsuit was a class action that is suing Prime for $5 million. And since this lawsuit came out, it put a stain on Prime's reputation, and people over on TikTok were making videos talking about how Prime Hydration has forever chemicals in it, and that Prime is essentially dangerous because Prime has 3 times the amount of forever chemicals that somebody should be having in their whole lifetime in one bottle. And it actually turns out that this wasn't necessarily true and has been debunked, because it is true that Prime Hydration does have PFAS in the bottle, but not necessarily the drink, and not to that level. Like, there's a very small amount, and let alone an amount that you literally cannot detect by doing a test.
Not only is there a lawsuit against Logan Paul's company Prime for there being PFOs, which are forever chemicals, in the Prime Hydration drink, but according to the testing done by one of the lawyers for the plaintiff, guess how much PFOs were in the product, in the drink? 3 times the amount that you should have in your lifetime in PFOs from drinking water. In one Prime Hydration drink, they found 3 times the amount of PFOs that you should consume in drinking water in your life.
All right, that's not what that level means. I'll get into that in a second, but first I just want to go through this lawsuit a little bit. So this lawsuit against Prime Hydration was filed in August of 2023, and it's against specifically their grape drink. So this is one in a string of similar lawsuits of beverages that are marketed as healthy and using natural ingredients. And these PFAS chemicals are being found in them. And so that's the main reason for the lawsuit, because these PFAS chemicals are considered to be synthetic and artificial when the marketing behind these products is supposed to be healthy and natural. So I covered one previously regarding the Simply Tropical drink, and it was the same type of thing. They were saying things on the front of the package that it was natural, and then these synthetic or artificial PFAS chemicals were being found in the drink. So essentially it's the fact that these artificial or synthetic PFAS chemicals are being found in these beverages that are being marketed as natural and healthy, and that they are targeting health conscious consumers that would reasonably believe that it is free from ingredients that would be harmful to human health. So that's the main reason for the lawsuit. The lawsuit also alleges that the amount of PFAS found within the product from the plaintiff's testing is approximately 3 times the recommended lifetime health advisory for drinking water, which is 0.02 parts per trillion. So these EPA health advisories are non-regulatory and non-enforceable. 0.02 parts per trillion for PFAS is referring to a concentration in drinking water. This is not referring to a level that a human can have in a lifetime. It's referring to a concentration in drinking water that if a human were to drink water with that level over a lifetime would likely not result in negative health effects. So this does not mean that in one single grape prime beverage, there is 3 times the amount that a human can have in a lifetime. It means that the supposed amount that they detected was 3 times the concentration of that lifetime health advisory level for PFAS in drinking water. So that's a huge misrepresentation of what that number actually means. What is interesting about the alleged amount that was found in this drink is that that is below the level of detection that we can even detect PFAS in water. So that 0.02 parts per trillion that they were referencing in the lawsuit was a 2022 interim health advisory level. And those levels that were set for both PFOA and PFOS were below the levels of detection. So how did they measure 0.06 parts per trillion if it's below the level of detection? That part is quite interesting to me. And more recently, on April 10th, 2024, the EPA announced the final national primary drinking water regulation for 6 PFAS chemicals. So these are the recent maximum contamination levels that are enforceable that have been established by the EPA. For PFOS, that is 4 parts per trillion. PFOS was the specific one in the lawsuit that they said was 3 times the health advisory, which would have been 0.06 parts per trillion, which again is below the detectable level. So not sure how they're getting that data. Of course, that information is not available in the lawsuit. That's a little questionable, but this new maximum contaminant level is 4 parts per trillion. Of course, in the future, these levels could be lowered as well. But as of now, if they were getting 0.06 parts per trillion in that beverage, that would be about 66 times lower than this new final maximum contaminant level for drinking water. So in summary, the main point of these lawsuits is that PFAS chemicals, which are synthetic and artificial, are being found in products that are being marketed as healthy and natural. The level that was reportedly found was below the limit of detection, and if that even was the level, it is still 66 times lower than the recently established federal maximum contaminant level of 4 parts per trillion for PFOS.
So yeah, it turns out that what people were saying about Prime and their great flavor wasn't necessarily true, and it didn't actually turn out that, you know, Prime is dangerous and has these forever chemicals, and it happens to be 3 times the amount of PFAS in this drink that you're supposed to be having in your entire lifetime. Like, no, it turns out that that wasn't true. So I really don't know what's gonna happen to this lawsuit, but when it comes down to the lawsuits being legitimate, I don't know if I can say that the next ones were made in bad faith and aren't necessarily true. Because surprisingly, with the last lawsuit, Logan Paul came out to debunk everything, but in this case, with these next lawsuits that I'm about to go over, Logan has been silent about these. Because if you guys aren't aware, recently Prime has been sued by Refresco, their bottler for Prime. They've sued Prime for around $68 million, which is huge, by the way. I talked about this on my second channel, and essentially what happened was Prime broke a contract with Refresco, which was essentially made because there was so much money being invested into the production line, and due to that, the two companies allegedly agreed on a minimum order commitment, and essentially if they did not hit the agreed upon orders from Refresco, Prime would be required by contract to pay a set amount of money per case, and I think you guys can see where this is going, allegedly. Refresco is seeking $67,710,000. According to the lawsuit shared by Bloomberg Law, as Refresco was getting ready to do a test run of the popular drink, Prime backed out of the agreement altogether. So yeah, like I said in my Breone video when I covered this, if this is true, they need to pay up. And yeah, this is just another one of the many lawsuits that Prime is dealing with right now. And we haven't even talked about the other ones yet, because apparently the next one is Agrovana versus Prime Hydration, in which the issue here looks like to be importer Agrovana, which says it has provided Prime with over $70 million of ingredients since 2022, has accused the beverage company of failing to fulfill payment on binding purchase agreements. Am I just the only one who finds it really weird that Prime just has like a history based off of these lawsuits allegedly of constantly breaking contract? Like, is it just me? Is it just me? Agrovana says the two companies entered into a contract for more than $32 million of products for the first half of 2024. Despite continuing to receive the product, Prime requests forbearance on the payments and a change to the schedule of the original purchase agreement, the complaint says. The complaint says after the companies agreed on a new schedule because Prime was sitting on heavy inventory, Prime refused to accept deliveries. Eventually in July, Prime said the product it had received was defective per the complaint. Agrovana is seeking unspecified monetary damages but claims Prime cost the company about $7 million. So yeah, now it looks like we have the bottler that was supposed to do bottling for Prime coming at Prime, and now we have an importer telling a very similar story, but instead of bottles, it's ingredients. Now, I have not heard of this lawsuit, but apparently we have Cesar Beccarella versus Prime Hydration. In this case, Cesar Beccarella, the Florida-based owner of a line of sports supplements and apparel called Alpha Prime and protein brownies called Prime Bites, accuses Prime of trademark infringement. Now, believe it or not, this is not the first time that Prime is being accused of trademark infringement, because in a more notable case that happened very recently with the US Olympic and Paralympic Committee, a very similar thing happened. But for now, the lawsuit claims that the similar nature of the branding has confused customers, damaging Beccarella's brand reputation. Trademark lawsuits like these are frequent, particularly for celebrity brands, and are often settled or dismissed. Moving on, this is another one that I had no idea about. High-Tech Pharmaceuticals versus Prime Hydration. In a trademark suit filed in June, High-Tech Pharmaceuticals, a Kentucky-based company, accused Prime Hydration of unfair competition and infringement. High-Tech Pharmaceuticals has been making energy drinks with caffeine, as well as powders and other supplements under the name Prime Nutrition since 2015. So yeah, honestly, I've been seeing this a lot. Like, when you start a business, you have to make sure you're not infringing on anybody else's copyright or trademarks and things of that nature. And it looks like Prime just really didn't even care and didn't really look into that beforehand and just decided, hey, we're going to call this Prime Hydration and we're going to make a hydration drink and we're going to make Prime Energy and, you know, that stuff without once again looking up whether or not we're even allowed to do that. Like, I don't know what Prime is doing right now, but they are looking very unprofessional, because it really is insane how many lawsuits that Prime does have against it. Now, this lawsuit doesn't really look as bad as the other ones, but it is Kennedy versus Prime Hydration. The suit was filed in 2023 by a woman who gave Prime to her 10-year-old son and who claims the product was falsely labeled and marketed to kids as healthy. The class action suit accuses Prime of feeding kids inordinately high levels of caffeine. The lawsuit says the plaintiff seeks damages and other equitable remedies, and it looks like in this case Prime filed a motion to dismiss, in which it looks like the plaintiff has until September 13th to say why the case against Paul and KSI should not be dismissed. Anyways, moving on. Breone versus Prime Hydration. In this class action caffeine lawsuit filed in New York in May, the plaintiff accuses Prime of mislabeling and falsely advertising the amount of caffeine in each Prime Energy beverage. The complaint does not say how much caffeine is in Prime Energy drinks. The plaintiffs are seeking monetary damages and injunction requiring full disclosure of the amount of caffeine in Prime on labels and in advertising, and testing to ensure the amount listed is accurate. The case discusses the marketing of Prime to young and teenage boys in light of the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention's recommendation that children and adolescents refrain refrain from consuming caffeine. And then it looks like the judge denied Prime's motion to dismiss because it looks like Prime keeps trying to dismiss every single one of these lawsuits. And it looks like the case has been consolidated with lawsuits filed by 2 other plaintiffs with related claims. And it looks like those 3 will proceed in a single case. So yeah, very interesting stuff. And it's just crazy how many people are suing Prime. And honestly, I feel like this one's a little bit justified because, you know, it's like there are going to be people out there who cannot distinguish these 2 drinks from each other and then accidentally buy the wrong one, like say the energy drink, and give it to their children. And I know it's the parents' responsibility to make sure they're not getting their, you know, kid an energy drink, but just the way that Prime is and how it's marketed towards children, I honestly think they should be doing a better job of distinguishing the 2 products besides putting energy on the drink. Shantae Heaven vs. Prime Hydration. A class action lawsuit filed by Shantae Heaven in Philadelphia on August 9th claims that Prime enabled the wiretapping of electronic communications of visitors to its website. The suit accuses Prime of using Meta and Google to eavesdrop on users who visit its website for marketing and data analytics. I mean, I don't know what this lawsuit is all about, but if it's what I think it's about, this is kind of ridiculous. And that's why I should have said this earlier, but I mean, just because it's a lawsuit doesn't necessarily mean it's true. But I mean, in this case, if you know anything about advertising on your website and using like Google Analytics and stuff like that, or whatever this might be about, you do have to disclose in the privacy policy what information you plan on taking from the user who visits your site and what information they might be putting into the site. And you have to like detail whether or not you're going to use it like to sell it or to use it to drive targeted ads at the users who are on your site. Like you have to detail all of this, and it's required by federal law. So I'm not exactly sure if they were doing that at the time or not, but I really don't know how this lawsuit is going to go. And it looks like Prime has not responded publicly to the lawsuit. Now, here's the really interesting lawsuit. The U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee versus Prime Hydration. I know, it's crazy, right? The Olympics Committee alleges the company used various Olympic trademarks reserved for its beverage sponsor, Coca-Cola. The complaint, which was filed in Colorado last month, says Prime Hydration used terms like Team USA, Olympic, Olympian, and going for gold on the packaging and in promotion of a drink collaboration with Kevin Durant. Much of the value of the sponsorship agreement is derived from its exclusivity, the committee said in the lawsuit, adding that exclusivity is threatened when individuals and organizations use USOPC trademarks without authorization. And that is 100% true. It definitely is going to hurt them because, I mean, they use like these sponsorships and the money that they receive for things that they need for the Olympics, like, you know, the uniforms and stuff like that, at least for Team USA here, and other various things that they might need, maybe even travel expenses and stuff like that. And without that, because I mean, if they don't have Coca-Cola or like Prime Hydration is like ripping off Coca-Cola, then Coca-Cola, one of their biggest sponsors, might back out. And for reasons of which I just explained, that 100% would be terrible. The committee said in the complaint that its lawyers had contacted Prime Hydration asking it to stop using the terminology, but that the product continued to ship with it. Prime has until September 12th to file an initial response. So yeah, based off of all of that, I think it's safe to say that Prime is just I wouldn't say they're fucked, but like, they're in a lot of trouble right now. And it really doesn't surprise me given who Logan is. I mean, in my last video, I talked about Logan and coffeezilla and how Logan is suing coffeezilla to try and silence him. It's a pretty shitty situation, but I mean, once again, we're talking about Logan fucking Paul. Now, with all that being said, I think I'm going to be wrapping up the video right there. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you happen to enjoy the video, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe because doing so will help promote the video more in the algorithm so that more people will see it. Thank you guys so much for being a member to the channel. Your support really means the world to me and I really do appreciate it. My name is Breone and I will see you in my next video. Peace!